Welcome to Recapturing Hollywood. I'm Tim Collins, editor in animated series and documentary.
I'm Jenna Day. I am an actress and a filmmaker.
And we're here at Coffee Fix, the best coffee shop in Studio City, with Stan Deneroff. Stan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Stan Deneroff. I spent 21 years working as a producer at the Walt Disney Company.
That's so incredible. So, Stan, you were telling us a little bit about your background. You didn't grow up here in Los Angeles. No. You grew up in New York City. How was that?
Great. Absolutely great. I mean, looking back at it now, is amazing to me, the things that were happening in New York when I was growing up. The cultural life, the theatrical life, the musical life. It was just the most fabulous place to be. And I was a very active participant, and I would say 3 to 5 nights a week I was out at an opera, concert, play, or some event.
But there was one event in particular that kind of set you off on a course.
Yes.
It was very different. You were 5 years old.
I was 5 years old when Peter Pan first opened in 1953, and I was taken to see it at the Roxy Theater, which is no longer there, and lost it. Just absolutely lost it. And I became an avid Disney fan and an animation buff at the age of 5.
What do you think it was about Peter Pan? Like, was it the storyline or the...
It was the storyline, and just I was blown away by the animation to see people flying, and I'm in many ways the little boy who didn't grow up.
Yes.
I like to tell people that I have to get old, but I don't have to grow up.
Is that something that I feel like anybody I've ever met who has worked for Disney kind of says the same thing? It's like...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's like a little bit of a childlike whimsy that everybody seems to have.
Right.
And I can see that in you.
Thank you.
Which is really great.
Actually, I must say, in all my working experiences, the nicest people, for the most part, that I ever worked with were at Disney.
Yeah.
There were a couple of stinkers, but for the most part, they were the nicest people I've ever worked with.
So Stan worked for Disney for, you said, 21
years.
Tell us a little bit about how you grew up in New York and then you shifted over and decided to come out to L.A. and...
Well, actually, it was robberies that brought me out here.
Oh.
We want to hear about that.
Yeah.
I was burglarized twice in a year living in Manhattan. And I said, maybe it's time for a break. And I took 6 months off. I went to visit a friend of mine who lived in San Francisco. And she was a professor of sociology at Stanford University. And while I was living there, I decided I was going to look into going back to school and study animation. My real passion my biggest fantasy was to produce an animated version of Wagner's Ring Cycle.
Oh my gosh.
We're talking 16 hours of music here. That never came to pass. But I did go to graduate school and learned how to produce animated films. And then it was about 1990, I decided, I really want to work at Disney. And so I put my efforts into making that happen, and it happened.
What was your Disney fandom like from when you were 5? You said you lost it. What was from there through San Francisco into grad school? Were you collecting and the whole time?
Yes and no. I had a very, very small Disney collection. There wasn't as much merchandise available in those days. And I had a small apartment.
Yeah, I can relate to that, yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of room. And when we moved from a house to an apartment, I was in college and was not really paying a lot of attention. And so my Disney collection got thrown away.
Oh.
It wasn't very big, but it got thrown away.
Yeah.
So in the 1970s, I started another Disney collection. And again, it wasn't very big. When I moved out here, I had it in storage in a friend's basement. And he called me and said, the house is for sale. You have to come get your stuff out of the basement. I said, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. Well, I didn't make it there tomorrow. I made it there the day after tomorrow. And the real estate agent found all these cartons in the basement and threw them away. So my second Disney collection got thrown away. So I started collecting again in about 1985. And now it has overtaken my house.
Well, people who are listening, if you have any Disney movies in your house, any DVDs with bonus features, you probably have Stan's collection of your own. You probably have a collection of stuff that you put together
That is
for
correct.
Disney.
That is correct.
So I would love to hear a little bit about what you started doing for Disney, how excited you were when you first started, and then how you got into making the bonus features.
Sure. Getting a job at Disney was like a dream come true. I used to pinch myself saying, people are paying me to do this? You know? I was initially hired to do programming of cartoon compilations for international and domestic home video based on my knowledge of the Disney library. And then at some point in time, my boss was thrown a project to produce an original half-hour music video. And she was very nervous about it. And I said, don't worry, we can do this. And it came out so well, I got a promotion to be a producer.
Oh, that's incredible.
That is incredible.
What was the video?
It was called The 12 Days of Christmas. It was based on a CD that was released by Walt Disney Records with the characters singing Christmas carols. And Michael Eisner decided that this would be a good idea for a music video.
When you were producing, did you get to meet actors from who voiced all the different characters?
Not on that project. It wasn't until I got into working on LaserDiscs and given budgets to produce bonus material. That's when I started making contact with the filmmakers and the voice talent.
How did the bonus material for LaserDiscs come about? Was that something that you were given, or did you pitch that? Or
Actually, I made it happen, in all modesty. I was hired, part of my job initially was to do closed caption checking. And Disney was the only studio in the industry that was not putting chapter stops on their LaserDiscs. And I asked my boss for permission to go speak to the people in charge of LaserDisc and spoke to the head of that. And I told her, I can add chapter stops while I'm doing the closed caption, and it's not going to cost you a penny. So they started adding chapter stops. And then I said, we really should be putting some kind of bonus material on these LaserDiscs. And initially I was limited to pre-existing footage. For example, in 20,000 Leagues, there was some footage of the animation that was cut from the movie, and that existed, so we put that on. And eventually I talked them into letting me do bigger projects, and they started giving me a budget.
You sort of forged your own path ahead.
I did. I made it happen. I was a pathfinder. And my title, if Disney allowed titles on the videos for their employees, which they don't, would have been executive in charge of production. I hired a producer who did the writing and had the editors and did all the shooting, but things like arranging interviews with voice talent or filmmakers had to be done through me. So I had to arrange all that stuff, and then I was always present at the shoots. The other thing that LaserDiscs had were dual audio tracks. Had a digital track and an analog track. So it was very common to put an audio commentary on the analog track. So I started recording audio commentaries for the movies with the filmmakers, mainly the filmmakers, sometimes the voice talent, but mainly the filmmakers.
Sure. Who was the most exciting person that you met in all of, because you got to meet everybody.
I met all the Disney princesses. All of them.
I'm so fangirling right now. Okay. Who stands out, though? Who was, the one
or two or three?
Well, the one I worked with the most and the one who I adored the most was Angela Lansbury.
Mrs. Potts.
Mrs. Potts.
Tale as Old as Time.
Yes. I was a fan of hers from New York theater days.
Yes.
Even when I was in college, I was a big fan of hers. And to this day, I can't believe that I actually got to direct her.
You know, I heard one time that Angela Lansbury didn't necessarily feel like she was right for Tale as Old as Time. Like, I don't know if this is something that you know about.
I don't know. I don't know.
Apparently it's kind of similar to the Celine Dion story for the Titanic movie song. Apparently, she didn't feel like she was right for the song, but they convinced her to try, just like do a rehearsal track of Tale as Old as Time. And it was the rehearsal track that's in the final movie.
She only did one take.
Which is incredible. One take.
Well, that's one of the things that most amazed me about her. And when we were chatting once, I said, how do you do it? You're seeing the script for the first time, and you get up and you give a perfect performance the first time. She said, well, my background was in radio. And we didn't see the scripts before we went on air. So you had to give a performance.
Yeah. It's sort of like a sight reader at piano or anything else.
Yeah. I always did backup takes just for safety.
Right.
But she was one of the most delightful, down-to-earth people I've ever worked with. One of the great thrills was doing the audio commentary for Mary Poppins. It was just me, Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke, and my friend Les Perkins, who's a big Mary Poppins fan, in the recording booth with them. And that was thrilling.
Okay, I have to wonder, of all the Disney princesses, who was the most princess-like? Because,
None of them.
None of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, none of them. But they were all very down-to-earth and accessible, and Adriana Castellati was an absolute hoot.
Yeah.
And she voiced Snow White.
She was the voice of Snow.
First.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the voice of Snow White. And she was a little kooky, but so sweet and so wonderful.
Yeah.
So wonderful. We brought her in to do, we found a deleted scene from Snow White that existed in Pencil Test.
Was that the? Was it an additional song?
No, it was the.
Was it a
It was
different?
a fight in the bedroom.
A fight in the bedroom.
A bedroom fight. It's on the LaserDisc. It's on the DVD. So that
That's so cool.
the deleted song, "Song in My Soup."
Yeah, Song in the Soup.
Was fully animated but not painted.
Right.
And that existed, and Walt Disney had actually shown that on one of his TV shows.
Really?
So we were able to include that.
Interesting. So you already had the cut of that from Disney, so you didn't have to go and then recreate it.
No, we didn't have to
time it out yourself.
We didn't have to.
Wow.
But the bedroom fight scene, we did have to go recreate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever get to meet anyone from the Disney family?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I worked with Roy Disney quite a bit. He was one of the most wonderful, wonderful men I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
Just so down to earth, so genuine, so accessible. Very, very concerned with the integrity of the Disney name. I met his daughter once, but I really didn't get to know her that well.
Over the years when you were working there, did you notice how did the company grow? How did they shift? Because obviously you had sort of pioneered a new thing, a new venture for them, and you were hiring a lot of outside production companies, outside producers initially for this bonus content. Did they bring more internally as they...
No.
So it always continued to be contracted.
Yeah. They, not just our division, but universally. Disney Channel, no one had their own production department.
Wow. And to your knowledge, is it still like that?
I would guess so.
Wow.
But my department doesn't exist anymore. DVD production is gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
that would make
true.
sense.
Streaming is now the...
But on streaming, there's now I'm observing more of a concerted effort to create behind the scenes content.
Are they creating new, or are they using the existing?
I think from
it's
what
a
I'm
blend.
seeing across the board, really, not specifically with Disney, but just an effort to bring in more making of, behind the scenes, documentary style footage, things like that. Because I know myself, I missed that from DVDs and Blu-rays. I never watched a LaserDisc, sorry. But
Very few people did.
It's like a time capsule. It's a moment in time. If you had it, you had it.
Right.
So I'm curious. The producing and work that you're doing on the behind the scenes and additional content, is that in that Disney animation building with the big Sorcerer's Apprentice hat on the front?
No.
Okay.
My office was Disney has a lot of external offices. On Alameda, near Hollywood Way, there's a big building that used to be called the Disney Channel Building.
Yeah.
But it's not anymore. But it used to be called. That's the building I licked.
Okay.
I just thought maybe that pointy hat.
Walking through the...
I would go there a lot.
Yeah.
I was there a lot, but my actual physical location was off the lot.
Okay. I know. I also was going to ask about the 7 dwarf pillars, in that building on the studio.
They're the biggest dwarves in the world.
They're
That's
the
all
biggest dwarfs. That's so good. Well, of all of the projects that you worked on during your tenure there, did you have one that was your absolute favorite?
Snow White.
Snow White.
The one thing I'm proudest of, or most happy about, is that I got to produce the first making of Snow White show.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And did you get to interview some of the Disneys about Walt's vision and his what was that?
For Snow White, I don't think we had Roy Disney on the audio commentary for Snow White. We had other animators and producers and directors, but Roy is on the audio commentary for Fantasia 2000.
Very cool.
Yeah, because he produced that. That's it. Yeah.
The original Fantasia, I think, was my favorite Disney film.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So when you said earlier, we were like, I wanted to do an animated Wagner, 16 hours of just music and animation. I was like, oh my gosh, you still should. There's a market for it. It's sitting here.
Actually, there's not, but I have another plan, but I haven't been able to get anyone to produce it. I don't know anyone who'd be willing to produce it. I don't have an agent.
Disney-centric or just another animated?
No. It's based on the It's based on the Ring cycle. It's just more just a narrative of the Ring cycle without the 14 hours of music, but using parts of the music as the soundtrack.
Yeah. That's true. 16 hours is a long time.
Well, not only that, there are long segments of the Wagner operas where nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like Siegfried's Funeral March is 8 minutes long, but what do you show people for 8 minutes of a dead body going across the screen? It's
not a lot to animate.
Yeah,
there.
It's not a lot to animate there, but as a story, it's very compelling. So.
Visually, because you went to UCLA,
yes.
You studied animation there. You were never the artist that actually wanted to draw all the animation. You kind of wanted to produce and be around it.
Right.
Was there a specific film that the animation stands out to you as the most Disney magical film? Or the most quintessential Disney?
I think to this day, Snow White is still the epitome of animated films.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant movie. It's brilliantly directed. It's not compromising. It doesn't talk down to children. Mm-hmm. It has scary elements to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a brilliantly made movie. Brilliantly made.
It's the way they wrote that character is very touching. She's very, she's like a whisper. You want to lean into her. And I agree, visually, the color palettes that they used for that film, when I think Disney, that's what I think of.
I think to this day, it's the crowning jewel.
Yeah.
Fantasia was a fantastically brave experiment. It didn't exactly work.
No, it didn't.
But what an incredible achievement it is.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
I have a kind of a combined question. So on the Disney movies that you got to, you knew a lot going in, but you researched and put together additional content for it. What's the most surprising thing you found about a movie? And then also about Peter Pan specifically.
Okay.
Both of those. Yeah.
Actually, I didn't find anything specific about Peter Pan. I'm sorry.
Right.
But for Snow White, I was amazed to find a set of storyboards. One of the great joys of my job was being able to go to the archives and the animation research library.
Wow.
And actually handle material and read storyboard meeting notes. And in the animation research library, I found a set of storyboards for a short called Snow White Returns,
Oh my God.
which is on the DVD of
Okay.
Snow White. That was amazing to find.
Do you know what year, roughly, or decade those would have been
It
from?
was probably right after the movie was made, because the movie was very, very successful. I mean, in its day, it made $8 million at a time when the movies cost 10 and 5 cents to go to the movies.
Yeah.
So $8 million
Yeah.
at 5 and 10 cents is a lot of tickets. And kind of today it irritates me when they say the box office numbers for the highest grossing movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested in to know how many tickets it sold than how much money it made.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's true because, how do you measure impact, right? Impact is a little bit different than just the monetary metric that we
Right.
see today.
Right.
I'm so tempted to ask you, did you see the new, the updated Snow White,
Yeah.
the live action? Have you seen any of the live actions?
I saw a couple of them and was so turned off by them that I've decided not to watch any of them ever again.
Yeah. Lost a little bit of magic there, I think.
Well, they were terrible.
Yeah.
They were just terrible.
Based on what you're seeing right now, do you think Roy Disney would do something
Different.
What do you think he may have done instead of what you're seeing happening right now?
I think the big problem, from my point of view, is Disney has become too multifaceted to be considered Disney anymore. They have ESPN, they have Marvel. They're not focused. They're not just animation. They used to be 100% animation with some live-action movies thrown in. So it's. They're never going to go back to that.
No, yeah.
Never.
They've grown beyond. Yeah.
They've grown beyond that. There's no Disney at Disney anymore. It's really just a brand name. And I personally do not care for the computer-generated movies. I like the look of the flat, painted, hand-done movies. The other big problem with Disney as a company is it's set up as multiple business units. They're not a cooperative single company. So when I would want to get a copy of something from the film archive, I would have to pay for it. I would be billed for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so like each sector would bill the other sector now.
Every sector has to be its own profit center.
Yeah.
They don't function as a unified company, which to me is the biggest problem there.
Yeah. I would love to hear a little bit about how you would describe the old Disney culture. Like, what was the culture of Disney like?
Well, I was not there,
Right.
but from what I've heard, I was fortunate enough in my early days there to work with a lot of the old animators, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, Mark Davis. It was very personal then. Everyone was on first-name basis, and they still are today. They still maintain that first-name basis. But supposedly, Walt knew every one of his employees by name. And Walt was the creative genius. Nothing passed his eyes without approval. That doesn't exist anymore. There is no one person with a vision anymore.
That is quite different, especially when you have a brand that has grown as extensively as Disney's has.
That's a lot of pressure. And to figure out your identity. as a
And
company.
I also think, as the generation today and the generation prior to mine have no real knowledge or experience of Walt Disney. When I was growing up, he was Uncle Walt. He was on TV every Sunday. There's the Mickey Mouse Club. This is all part of my childhood. I don't think today Walt Disney is a name. I don't think anyone really knows who he is today.
As someone who, grew up in the 90s, but mostly saw Walt Disney, the man, as... I never saw him as Uncle Walt. I saw him as the head of Disney who founded it. I don't remember if he was still around when I was
He
watching.
died in 1966.
Okay, so he was not. Yeah, he was not around.
Right.
But to what Jenna was saying, what would you describe his ethos as, just for someone like me? Was he telling stories for children?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. He was, from all accounts,
Yeah.
he was an incredible storyteller. He would get up and act out the parts for the other animators. And he had an intuitive sense of what would work and what wouldn't work. And there was a gift he had. I mean, he was a visionary. He was an absolute visionary.
Did you ever get to talk to Roy Disney Jr. about his father? And do you remember any of those
There
conversations?
is no Roy Disney Jr.
No.
Walt had 2 daughters.
Oh.
Roy Disney is Walt's nephew. This is his brother's son. And yes, I spent lots of time talking to Roy. At home video, Roy unofficially told me to come to him at any time that there was an issue that I thought he should know about.
Was that a quality issue or a...
It depended. There was lots of different things. They were planning on doing something for the release of Snow White on DVD that I thought was just a horrible idea. And I went to Roy and I said, this is what they're planning on doing.
Yeah.
And he kiboshed it.
Yeah. Well, let's actually take a break.
Yeah.
Get some fresh coffee if we want it.
Oh, I'm fine,
We'll be back soon.
I don't need a break, but
And we're back here on Recapturing Hollywood with me, Tim Collins, animation editor, and
Jenna Day, actress and filmmaker.
we're going to continue with Stan here,
Yes.
our producer behind the scenes and additional content at Disney. Yes. So I'm going to actually throw it way back to when you were in New York still, and you were working on Broadway, off Broadway,
I worked
or just in theater?
I worked at the Vivian Beaumont Theater for 2.5 years, and then I worked at Actors Equity for 2.5 years.
When you were there, congratulations on being paid to work in theater, by the way.
Right. That was amazing. And I had the job as soon as I left college.
Yeah.
I was working there part-time before I graduated, and when I graduated, I walked right into a full-time paid $85 a week.
But at the time, and right out of college, it's not bad.
From the theater beginning, did you ever get to see someone that started with where you were, on stage, and then they became larger in theater, or they went out and made movies or anything like that?
Yes, kind of yes and no. When I was at the Vivian Beaumont Theater, we did a production in 1971 of Tennessee Williams played Camino Real. And the main character in that is Kilroy. And the actor that they hired to play Kilroy had just won a Tony Award for a play called Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? And this was his second professional outing, and his name was Al Pacino.
Wow.
Al Pacino. Oh my gosh.
And I have a picture of the two of us together that people think we're brothers when they look at the picture.
Was he a New Yorker too? Is Al Pacino from New York? Okay, so he probably did have that New York swagger. I was going to ask you if some of that because you mentioned something in the pre-discussion about being a New Yorker, and when you're starting out in your career, you felt like it kind of helped you a little bit. You had that New York attitude.
I do.
Yeah. So describe what that New York attitude is and how it helped you sort of pave your own path.
Two things about my New York attitude. One, I say what's on my mind. What you see is what you get when you deal with me. I don't beat around the bush. I'm very direct. And a lot of people don't like that.
Well, especially in Los Angeles, the city of subtle hints and passive aggression.
And I've also been a loner all my life. grew up liking things that no one else in my world liked, especially opera. I became an opera buff when I was 10 years old, and I didn't have a lot of friends who liked opera.
Yeah. No, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up just loving the sound of opera, and then I actually trained at UK Opera Theater in college, and there's just something really special about it, but it's certainly not for everybody.
No,
Yeah.
especially at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I started going to the opera. I started riding the subways when I was 9 years old, and went into Manhattan just about every Saturday from that point on. And I started going to the opera when I was 15.
Disney had an opera star, and you were showing us a picture that you have with Disney's opera star. Tell us a little bit about that.
Mary Costa
Yes.
she actually started her career early in doing television commercials.
And Mary Costa, she voiced Aurora in Sleeping Beauty.
Yes, she was the voice of
Just
Sleeping
to
Beauty,
catch people
Aurora and
out.
Barb. Yes, and she had a very successful career as an opera singer, and that's what she's probably most known for, but most remembered for Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
She was an incredible artist, a sweet, sweet, sweet lady. I shouldn't say was; she's still alive. Just a lovely, lovely, lovely lady, and I got to spend some really fabulous, fabulous time with her.
For behind the scenes, is there one property or more that you particularly liked making?
Well,
you mentioned Snow White before.
Yeah, well,
but-
that's the thing I'm proudest of. But one of the nicest and rewarding experiences I had was working on the LaserDisc of Toy Story with John Lasseter and Pete Docter, and that whole crew was great. They were so into it and so enthusiastic and so part of the production. And I got to go up to Skywalker Ranch, which was an amazing
legendary
experience.
recording studio.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
How far away is that, actually?
It's
I don't
right
know.
outside San Francisco.
Oh, okay,
It's outside
yeah.
San Francisco.
Makes sense.
Yeah, about 40 minutes outside San
It's
Francisco.
George Lucas's stomping grounds.
Got to spend the night there. It was amazing.
Okay, actually, I'm not familiar with Skywalker.
So I can give a really quick
Yeah,
overview.
give me a quick overview.
Stan might know more. So Skywalker Ranch was built, I believe, around the time Star Wars came out, but it was built by George Lucas to be a state-of-the-art recording studio, mixing house, and things like that. So you could go to Skywalker Ranch to finish your film. And ever since then, it's been almost like a badge of honor to be
be able to go.
oh, this film finished at Skywalker Ranch.
Oh, cool.
I imagine they probably helped develop THX up there, or, things like that.
Right.
Any other?
No,
Thoughts?
nothing to add to that. Sounds pretty. I think it was after Star Wars was so successful that he was able to build there. It's
Yeah.
sort of like Walt Disney building his studio after Snow White came out.
I did not know that.
Yeah, originally the studio was in Silver Lake on Hyperion.
Yeah.
It's called the Hyperion Studio. And Snow White was so successful, he was able to build a big studio in Burbank.
Yeah, the one that we all want to go in
Right.
with those large dwarfs.
With the big pointy hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the archives, have you ever found something that you thought that surprised you, or you thought, wow, I didn't know this would be here, or I thought this didn't exist anymore?
Well, as I said, the Snow White Returns was a big surprise.
Yes. Yeah.
Big surprise to my lenses.
What can you tell us about that? I mean, you might not be able to tell us a whole lot about
There's
that.
really not much I can tell. I mean, I just would sit with cartons or boxes and go through them page by page. And if I found something that looked like it might be interesting, I would put it aside, and hopefully there would be something else that would show up that would match that. And but as I recall, the Snow White Returns was pretty much all together in one box. I wouldn't swear to that, but I seem to recall that was the case. But that was a big surprise to find that existed. Yeah.
That's really cool. Oh my gosh. That's one of the things I love about the concept of this podcast, Tim, and even like the fact that like we're having it in a coffee shop is like when you live in Los Angeles and you walk into a coffee shop, you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what they've worked on and like what their story is. But it's
true.
you always meet the most interesting people. And I feel like I've met one of the world's most interesting men today.
Thank you, but
You know what I mean? In so many
doubt it,
different
but thank you.
sectors. So many different sectors.
Thank you.
One thing I was going to ask, though, because we did talk about like the pace in which the Disney company to keep up, and it really is. It's kind of with the onset of streaming, keeping up with the amount of stuff, the amount of content that needs to be made. Mm-hmm. There's such a quick turnover versus animators would spend years,
Right,
sort of nurturing, like almost like bringing up a child. And I was curious, I know you were kind of in a different facet of it where you were doing a lot of the bonus materials, but like how long would you sit with each project? Like how long did each project that you were working on for Disney germinate before it was ready to like go on the disc?
Usually 4 to 6 weeks.
That's pretty fast turnaround for you.
Well, no, because I wasn't doing artwork, I wasn't painting. It was just finding archival footage that existed or shooting new footage.
Right.
It's a really underappreciated skill, being an animator.
Yeah.
I don't think today it's quite as artistic as it used to be. I think today it's more manipulating a puppet than actually drawing.
Yeah, different aspects of animation nowadays can be more about putting your touch on the character, not drawing the whole character yourself.
Right.
Things where there's anchor points and things get swung around and it's less.
You're not actually hand drawing them anymore. It's become a craft, not an art.
Is there still a concept artist that will like, here's the hand-drawn concept of the character, and then that is taken, scanned, and translated into...
I don't know. I don't work there, but I know that they still do concept art.
Right.
That's mainly what I collect, is concept art. I have a few cells, but mainly what I collect are the images that were drawn by one person to represent a particular moment in the movie.
Well, it's like the favorite thing in your collection.
My favorite.
Yeah, your favorite thing. Like, that you're most proud of. Like, if I was going to come over to your house, you'd be like, I have to show you this first.
That's so hard. I have a storyboard panel from Snow White that is just amazing. I have concept art from Pinocchio that's astonishing. Most of the stuff is not from the contemporary movies that I have. Most of the stuff are from the older movies. So I wasn't around when they were being made. There used to be, before the invent of eBay, there used to be something called the National Fantasy Fan Club. I still think they exist, but they used to have 2 conventions a year down in Anaheim. And that's where I used to get most of my stuff.
Okay.
Now it's eBay.
eBay. Yeah. The internet. Oh, the internet.
I would say
Strikes back.
90% of my collection has come from eBay, and many of the pieces that I own are things that I had when I was a child that I have been able to relocate on eBay. People of my generation are dying out. We're getting old, and the newer generation is less interested in the Disney classic films and more interested in the more contemporary films.
Right.
I had an interesting story about 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago. I was at a doctor's office, and there was a young woman there, probably in her 20s. And she said, I see you worked at Disney for 21 years. I said, yes, I did. She said, did you work there when they made those old movies like The Little Mermaid?
Oh, my goodness. That's, not
Cute.
old, but yeah.
But that's the state of the art today. That's where we are today.
That's right.
I think The Little Mermaid may have been one of my first Disney films I ever saw. Yours was Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Jenna, what was your first Disney movie you ever saw?
It was actually the first movie I ever saw in theaters was The Lion King.
Oh.
Now, I was 3 years old, so I don't remember it. But I do remember watching that movie a lot as a kid.
I remember on the VHS for Lion King, there was sort of a segment about how the animators got to witness how real lions walked and moved and roared. Did you get to touch any of that footage when you were?
That was all shot when they were actually making the film. That's archival footage that I accessed.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was all made during production. I was not involved in the production. I was always in after the movies were released.
Cool.
The newer ones.
How have you seen Los Angeles change?
You used to be able to park here.
Like a car?
Yes.
Wow.
You used to be able to park just about anywhere in the city. Gas was 53 cents a gallon.
Just 50, not $4.53.
Right, just 53 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
When it went up to $1 a gallon, people were just absolutely beside themselves.
Yeah, wow.
It's gotten much more crowded here. Traffic has gotten to be horrible. The air quality has improved, which is a good thing.
Oh,
That's good.
yes.
We don't have the brown skies all the time we used to have. But so is New York. Every place has changed. Nothing's the same as it used to be. True.
Yeah.
I feel like, from my impression of Southern California before my time, is that the casualness here was more actually casual and not sort of isolated casual.
It's a very isolated city. It always has been.
Okay.
The size of the city makes it very difficult to have social relationships here. Very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that.
That's true.
And that's always been the case. Always.
Did you and any of your friends ever go down to the beach, go surfing?
I used to live at the beach. I never surfed, but when I first moved here, I made a deal with myself that if I was going to live in Los Angeles, I had to live at the beach. So the first years I lived here, I lived close to the beach.
Good for you. Good for you. It's a lot cooler on that side as we
That's
sit
true.
here on a nice hot summer day.
In the valley,
It's less convenient, and parking was very difficult
Yeah.
in Venice and Santa Monica.
How have you seen Disneyland change over the your entire duration of having gone?
I didn't first go to Disneyland until 1975, so it was already established. But it doesn't have all the little extra touches that it used to have. They used to be barbershop quartet singers.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be marching bands other than the parades. All of that's gone.
Yeah.
All of that is gone. The merchandise, they don't even sell figurines at Disneyland anymore. You can't buy figurines there. I used to go there to shop.
Is it breakable? Is it because they're breakable and they don't want people?
I think people are more interested in T-shirts than sweatshirts.
Yeah. What you just said sort of reminds me. It's like sometimes we lose some of the extra pixie dust that makes everything magical. I think beyond just Disney, Hollywood in general seems like it's having that identity crisis right now. And what do you think is that extra pixie dust that needs to be recaptured as you watch movies today, as you look at the industry today?
Well, the focus on making money. It's about profit today. It's not about quality. It's about money, 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 money. Very rarely do you come across an intelligent screenplay anymore. Very rarely. I don't go see the new movies. I barely watch any of them on television. That's my way of dealing with it, just living in the past.
Well, before we finish, what's a movie that you think everybody should see, even if it's an older movie?
Yeah.
And what's one piece of advice, one movie to watch and one piece of advice that some of the younger Hollywood aspirers can take with them?
The original King Kong,
Oh, okay.
one of the great movies of all time. And what's amazing about it that all the other versions have missed is you feel sympathetic for the King Kong.
Yeah.
You really have a sympathy for and empathy for him, and it's a touching movie that way.
Yeah.
The special effects may look dated, but they still work. They still work. There are lots of movies that people should watch. The Wizard of Oz is a movie nobody should ever miss in their life.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
It just holds up. I just watched it fairly recently, and I was amazed how well it holds up.
Yeah.
It feels like it was made today. It's just an amazing movie. And in terms of advice, my real advice would be follow your dreams and you can make anything in your life happen if you're really focused on making it happen.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a recapturing Hollywood bit of advice.
That is.
And it worked for you.
Did.
Got here?
It did.
Got
It
found your
absolutely-
place at Disney.
It did. When I decided that that's what I wanted to do and put all my efforts into making it happen, it happened.
And you paved a path. Like there wasn't a path, you made a path.
Yes.
That's amazing. So good. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This has been
thank you
great.
very much
This
for
has been
joining us.
great.
Yeah.
This has been great. I loved it. Thank you for including me, even though I don't feel like part of old Hollywood.
Well, I tell you what, I go back to you never know who's going to you're going to run into at a coffee shop. So thank you to the listeners for joining us at this coffee shop today and joining us on this discussion of recapturing Hollywood.